Alrighty. Here we go for the I think it's the seventh live stream. I don't think it's actually the seventh. I think it's number seven, but I missed number four. So it's the sixth live stream. But it's called number seven because I didn't put a number in the one that I didn't actually run. Good afternoon, Zelen Lee. Nice to see you. Um, so what I was thinking of today is that let me just make sure. Can you hear me? I think it's sending. I always like have this back and forth about whether it's plugged in properly, whether I've muted it, and all this other stuff. So just making sure that the audio is working for everyone. I didn't get an answer, so let me just type it just in case. Oh, yep, cool. Ben said audio is working. Thank you very much. Okay, cool. Okay, so what I was saying in the sort of intro to this when I was setting it up, was it last night or this morning? Yeah, night and morning kind of flow into each other sometimes. Um, that I was going to maybe give some technical help and stuff to people who are working on assignment two, um, but maybe are having issues with the with thinking about things like how do linked lists even work? You know, because I know I throw you in for an assignment and this kind of stuff, but I also only introduce the concept to you a week before the assignment started, and that's really kind of how these things work because we've got 10 weeks in a term. I want to give you 3 weeks for an assignment, and I want you to use as much as I can as possible, and so I don't really want to have concepts that you need for the assignment. I don't want me to be introducing them halfway through the assignment when people have already started working on it. So what we do is kind of cram a whole lot of content in just before the assignment is released. And then we release the assignment. And then the next couple of weeks after that has new content, but also has a little bit of a focus on like, okay, let's go back and cement this one topic. Let's go back and cement this other topic. So I was thinking about doing something like that with linked lists, but I'm also open to if anyone's got any questions as well. So even if it's like, um, you know, what's the deal with this part of the assignment? Like, what would be your suggestion for getting started on this part and stuff? So we've got a few people here. Ask if you want to, that's okay. But I thought I might start off with a couple of things like let's look at the early stages of the assignment because I think that, you know, the level of help that I'm happy to give for the assignment uh, depends on. Ooh, ooh, don't go places where people aren't supposed to see while you're live streaming. Tom just came in and it's like, are you showing them questions for a lab that you haven't released yet? That would be funny because you think that I actually have questions for labs I haven't released yet. You, like the whole idea that I would be that prepared is preposterous. Okay, let's view this in the browser. Okay, so what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about some of the theory. Oh yeah, I was going to say like help for different stages, right? So I would give a lot of help for the early stages. I don't really want to throw everyone in the deep end and go, here's your first year introductory course, and there's a distinct chance that you will fail it. Like I'm not really, I don't really want that to be the way that this works. I would say that like, you know, the majority of the people, but not everyone, you still have to actually learn something to pass. But I'm happy to give a lot of help for stuff like stage one, and even for a bit of stage two as well. And you'll note that really strongly because like you look at the big battle royale example that I did in lectures, and it'll be like that's actually the majority of the first two stages of the assignment. You can nearly go, all right, here's Mark's code. Mark's code does this. he's shown us how to insert in an arbitrary position in a linked list. That means that this one, adding to the realm, and this one, new towers, is nearly done already. If you can, and this is the key, right? Yes, you can use my code. You can use it in the assignment. The thing is, it won't work exactly. You have to understand the code well enough to be able to reuse it for your own purposes, and that's what I want you to be able to do. Like like anyone can copy stuff off Stack Overflow and go, yeah, I hope that works. Enough people voted it up that I hope it works. But what I want you to be able to do is go, okay, here's code that does a specific purpose. Now I've been asked to do something slightly different with it. Do I understand it well enough to make the changes I need to be able to do it? It's also why we give you files in the assignment. Like, we give you files that have a lot of stuff in it. Because if we said build it from scratch, like, we'd have people losing the whole first week of the assignment going, what is the correct format for how these files fit together? And that's, you will learn that eventually. But at the moment, I think with us, with our unrelenting stream of C techniques that we've been throwing at you, like pretty much one a week, even two a week in some of these weeks, where it's just like, okay, here's memory allocation and structs in the same week, so it's like they go together, but at the same time, it's hard to pick up all those concepts at once. So we're not asking you to do a whole lot of like sort of structural reasoning and stuff, but we are asking you to at least be able to use what we've given to you. So I've explained how multi-file projects work, and then I give you a multi-file project, and it's like, okay, can you compile it properly? Can you figure out that there's only one main and it should be in a particular file, even though I've given you two files with mains, right? So you can think about it like that, where it's like um, there's a certain amount of help to get you going, and then there's a certain amount of like, where do you pick up on it, and what do you want to make out of it? So what I was looking at here is like adding the realm, printing out the realm. I don't think I want to really go through this because I think I've pretty much gone through this with in the lectures already, which is like loop through all of the towers. Oh, sorry, towers, land, and stuff like that, and then you're going to call the right function based on information you pull out of them. So I don't think I need to do that much of that one, but I think that it could be worth going over the idea of um, doing stuff like insertion, especially when we've got this cool thing with the castle pointer. So this is something that I didn't cover in lectures, um, because what we did in lectures was like just find a position, just find any position that matches a certain thing and insert there. But what we have this time is like in the lectures we were like find a node then insert after that node. With this, it's actually like here's the castle, and we're always going to insert the locations just before the castle. So we'll insert one location, the next location would go in just before the castle, the next location would go in this little gap between them, and so on. Um, so let me open Xpaint. I wonder if I want that canvas to be bigger. Do I? New canvas with size. All right, let me ditch this one. New with size, and I have more screen than this. Oh wait, 1200's a bit wide. That'll do. Okay, so I've got a reasonably big canvas here that I can talk about what I'm doing. So I have a realm. Oh wait. Ooh, Control Z doesn't undo. Um, what am I looking for? Line thickness. There you go. All right. So the realm has 2 pointers in it. What I might do actually, okay, let's just take this out of the context of this. Oh, actually, no, we'll keep it. We'll keep it. I was going to say let's just call it something else, like I'm going to call it the start pointer and the end pointer, but I might just call it the layer and the castle pointer. So there's a layer. Yeah, my writing is amazing. I apologize. I am just writing with my mouse. Oh yeah, Tom's saying I should stream from his tablet so then I can actually write stuff. Or I could get something like that, but I mean, that's a lot of effort for the occasional diagram. Okay, so the lair and the castle are going to point at certain locations. We've been given a guarantee. You've been given a guarantee by myself and by Tom and by other people who have worked on this to get it started that this is always going to be the case. There's always going to be something here. We're never going to give you the realm without these things existing. So you have this kind of nice thing where you're never actually going to have an empty list. The list is always given to you with at least two elements in it, so you can always work with those. So in the beginning, it just looks like this. And this is just a linked list. So this is the next pointer. If I want to, I can just go next, run out of space. Yeah, so the next pointer comes from the lair and it points at the castle. And so the trick is what we want to do is put something between the castle and the lair. What I'm going to do is show you this at an expanded level because when I show you this with only two of them, it's actually less useful. So what we will do is, where's the eraser? I'm not used to Xpaint. Which one is it? Oh, the one that looks like the eraser. Yeah. Okay. So let's oops, I'll put the pen back. I'm going to put a couple of little locations here. And what we want to do is insert another one here. So each of these red arrows is a next pointer, which means that this location's next pointer is aimed at castle. The nice thing about that is we will always be able to find this final gap by going from the beginning here. So what's a color I haven't used? We're always going to start at the start. Let me just say realm includes the lair and the castle. Wow, this is this reminds me of CS Paint. This is a masterpiece that I will expect thousands and thousands of dollars for. Okay, so where was I with the orange here? I start at this node, and if I want to see what the next node is, I can get this pointer and say, what is the next of the node that I'm looking at? So if I have this pointer is a memory address pointed at this. If I use the star on that pointer, I will access this node. But because we're using pointers to structs, I can do something like, if this is pointer, then this, I'm spending all my time trying to write with a mouse, is pointer next. So it means that when I'm iterating at any point, any position in the list, I can always access the next element in the list. So the cool thing is, when I reach this one here, so let's just say at another point in time, I'm at this pink one here, is, let's just call it P so I don't have to type out the whole thing. This is P, then this is P next. Which means I now have something that I can do, which says if I want to figure out whether I'm looking at two nodes where one of them is the one before the castle and the next one is the castle, and if I have those two nodes, these two, then I know I can insert something in those two. if I go, let me just put that out of the way and dodge my own face with the text. This would have been lecture 15 or 16. I'm going to use 16 because 16 I think has the final version of that battle royale thing. Also need to dodge my face. A little bit further. Okay, so we have a function called insert. Insert was searching, oh no, it wasn't searching for a name. It was getting a position in a list and then creating a new node and inserting it there. Let's go have a look at insert. So, first of all, it made one. And then if it was null, it made the list. We don't even need this because it's never actually going to be null. Yeah, Ben, that's a fair call. I probably should have just clicked the text tool and typed it in rather than being silly and trying to do everything by hand. Okay, so insert was going to create something with the input name and its next is null. Then if the list of things that I was putting in was not null, then this bit of code here is just squeezing myself in between the two nodes that are there. So this is the node that's before, and then its next is the node that's afterwards. So what we did here is we said the node that we've created, let's go back to the image. I think the image is going to be show this more easily. So I create a node. I'll do it here. It has a next pointer, and I'm saying its next pointer. So let's say we have this P in this P next. If I want it to point at the castle, then its next pointer must point at P next. So if its next pointer copies P next, that means we're copying the location of this, I'm going to say location of this location. It's the memory address of this location. And if two pointers have the same value, if two pointers have the same memory address, it means they point at the same object. So if I make this next pointer copy this pointer here, which is P next, then it's going to aim at this node. The other thing I want to do then is I want to take this node's next and aim it at me. So this is currently what its next is. Its next is currently aimed at this, but what I want it to do is I want its next to aim at the new node that I've created. So what I do is I overwrite its next. So overwriting is going to destroy whatever's in there. And this is just basically assigning it. So this is this. Oh no, it's this one. So list player was the thing we were given, which was the position in the list that we're inserting after. So we're saying its next now points at the new thing that we've just created. I might actually do this code again to make it easier to see what's happening. And what that does is it says this one had a next, and it was pointed here, but what we want to do is point it at the new one, which is there. And that joins up things in our list. That's basically the first function that we're asking people to do in the assignment. So let's have a look at doing this. I think, Tom, do you remember, did we do this in the labs? We didn't do it in the labs, did we? But we may have talked about it in the tutorials. Inserting just before the end. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's have a look at it anyway. Either way, I think it's worth looking through, especially now that we've got this diagram and we show what's happening. So what I'm going to do now that I've shown you conceptually what we're going to do, we'll we'll do the exact thing. Okay, so stream 7 will make a directory for this. Yep. So, all right, I'm going to call it insert location, and I'm going to use some of the same terminology and stuff that we use in the assignment for this. So, insert location. I don't know if I want to copy this. I'm not sure for the moment. So, let's say we are going to probably need our standard input output. Then, what structs do I have? I have a realm struct that has some pointers. I think actually even before the realm struct, I'm going to want the um, location. So this isn't everything that's in the assignment. It's just going to be analogs of what's in the assignment. So the location has a name. I can't remember exactly how big the define is. I'm just going to say it's maxing out at 50, or I should define it. How big is it, Tom? It's 32. Okay. Let's define the name length. Oh, right. If we have 32 characters and a null terminator, then we're probably going to need space for one more. I mean, either way, we're probably not actually going to use the full length of this right now anyway. Okay, and then we have a pointer to the next location in the list. And the realm has a pointer to the lair and a pointer to the castle. Say again? Which one, sorry? Oh, I used to. Tom's like, use the hash define. It's like, what will hash define? These are lair and castle. And it's like, no, back up here. Yeah, I just didn't. I just wrote the hash define and didn't use it. So, yeah, so the name length is nice now. Okay, so this is the kind of setup that we get in the assignment. I'm going to do this in a simpler way here, rather than um, rather than necessarily using the assignment exactly. I'm going to keep this a little bit simpler. So we're going to have two locations at the beginning that we start off with. So the first one's going to be the lair. So in order to have this location and have it available for us for use, we can throw pointers to it and all this kind of stuff. We're going to memory allocate it, which means we have a location pointer. Oh, actually, so I don't need a location pointer. I'm going to make a realm. And the realm is going to need its memory allocated for it to exist properly. So I allocate memory for the realm, and I ask myself, how much memory do I need to allocate for the realm? This amount of memory is going to be, how big is this? And it's going to have two location pointers in it. And if I wanted to, I could go look in my operating system and go, how big are these pointers and stuff. But what's much better is I just ask my program to figure it out for me. So yep, program figures out how much memory I need, allocates that memory, then it will give me back from this function a pointer. Sorry, I didn't actually finish the first half of this before I started typing. So it will give me back a pointer to a realm. I'm just going to call this Azeroth. So my realm is Azeroth. I don't know if anyone knows. Actually, I'm sure a lot of people know this. You're just going to pretend not to because, like, it's the game that wastes the most time. This game has probably eaten more degrees than any other computer game in existence. It's called World of Warcraft, and Azeroth is the is the name of the world that it's on. Okay, so I've got a realm. I've called it Azeroth, and it has been memory allocated now. So that means that I, with this, have created a single variable of type realm, and I've created it in memory somewhere where it can work. So it means that this thing is persistent, um, and I can give pointers to this address. If I copy this pointer and pass it to a function, it will be able to find that piece of memory that has been allocated to me for this. But really, all I need to think about this after I've malloced, memory allocated it, is that I have a variable called Azeroth. I can't access it directly, but I can only access it via this pointer. But accessing it via the pointer is just as easy as accessing it any other way. Okay, so I have Azeroth, and Azeroth has a lair and a castle in it. So I'm going to want to create those two first, link them up, and that'll be us in the kind of state that we would be in at the start of the assignment. Probably could have made a separate function for this, just like the assignment, but I'm just gonna forge ahead for now. Okay, so I'm going to say that Azeroth has a lair. So at the moment, I've memory allocated it, but I haven't used any of that memory yet. So if I was to try to access this layer now, I would have issues because I have not done anything with this memory yet. But if I say this pointer is now equal to some memory that I create, then it will set it up properly as a location variable that's at the end of this pointer layer. So I'm saying here's my pointer, and I want to allocate memory and then assign that memory to the layer. So again, size of, because size of is easier to use than any kind of calculation to figure out exactly how many bytes. Malloc is going to want a certain number of bytes. So we're going to give it the right number of bytes, which is a location struct worth of bytes. So size of is going to tell me how many bytes location takes up. I'm going to allocate that much memory. So somewhere in my computer, in my RAM, I'm going to get access to a chunk of memory that's the right size, and malloc is going to give me back a pointer. I'm going to store that pointer in Azeroth layer. So now Azeroth layer is initialized. It has no values, so it doesn't have a name, and it doesn't have a next pointer yet, but it's there and I can now write to those. So I can say lair name. I won't really be able to assign this directly because it's a string, so I'm going to want to copy into that string, which means you see the order that I do things is kind of like, as I think I'm going to need it, I will say I know that I'm going to need some string stuff. So I've got some string stuff. So lair name, I'm just going to push that down one line because I know I'm going to use it still. I'm going to do a string copy. String copy copies the first input is the source. Sorry, first input is the destination. Second input is the source. So I know that it's going into lair name, and then I'm going to want to give my lair a certain name. And I can just do this with this string, like this with string copy. And so this is going to be Blackrock Mountain, obviously. It's not necessarily obvious. I don't know. There's not that many people watching at the moment, but for anyone who watches the video later, Blackrock Mountain is kind of one of the early locations where the orcs came from. Oh no, actually, um, it's better than that. The orcs first came through the dark portal. So the lair is going to be the dark portal. Orcs are going to come through the dark portal, which is like them appearing in Azeroth, and then they're going to move through. Okay, I can't yet set the next pointer of the lair because there's nothing else to point at yet. So what I'm going to do, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna do that beforehand. I'm going to set up the lair. I'm going to create both the lair and the castle, and then connect them up. So the castle's also the same type as the lair, so it's going to get the same kind of memory allocation. So good to remember that every time we allocate memory, with malloc, what we're going to get is a different location every time. So malloc, I can call this 100 times, and it'll give me 100 different little chunks of memory and 100 different pointers pointing at those chunks of memory. So these are not the same. They look the same because they have the same text, but they go one after another. So this one will give me a memory address somewhere with enough memory that I can use. This one will give me another memory address, and it'll be different from the first one because we can't reuse that same memory until we've freed it. So I have two different pieces of memory, one for the lair, one for the castle. The lair's name is the dark portal, and now I can actually say the lair's next. So what's next in the world is going to equal the castle. So what I've done is I've taken the pointer to the memory, which is the castle, and I've said copy that pointer into the lair's next. So what I'm doing at this point is, you know what? You know what I'm doing? I am setting up a new canvas. So at this point, I have created a realm. Did I do that wrong? Wait, wait, wait. Wrong button. I've created a realm. Go back to the pen. Use my purple here. And it has a lair. Probably should have made that bigger, shouldn't I? And it has a castle. Those I have just created. So we have a lair and a castle. So this is me memory allocating these two. So I have a realm and I have 2 pointers, lair and castle. I don't know why there's a line there. No, anyway, I'm just going to leave it as it is. What I've done then, that is me memory allocating the realm. So I've memory allocated the realm, which gives me this realm, and it has these 2 pointers in it. Note the pointers are not linked up to anything yet. They just exist, but they don't have addresses yet. The next thing I did was I said that the lair is a memory allocation of a struct location. So there's no information in that structure. It's empty. It's just a piece of memory, except what I've said is after you allocate that piece of memory, point Azeroth's lair at it. So that was me doing this. And then I said, allocate another piece of memory. See, these are separate pieces of memory here. Allocate this piece of memory and point the Azeroth castle pointer at that piece of memory. So I've got this piece of memory, and I'm pointing this castle pointer at this piece of memory. So now my 2 pointers are linked up to these locations. Then I've said string copy the dark portal in as the name. So let's go here. Oops, I don't want that color. I want it to be this color. This, oh, tear dark portal. So this is the dark portal. And then I've said the lair's next. Ooh, anyone pick that? Anyone pick my mistake? I said the lair's next, but the lair doesn't exist at the moment. The lair is a pointer that's inside Azeroth. I have not created a variable in here called lair, so this isn't going to work. But what I'm saying is the lair that's in Azeroth, because I know that Azeroth has a lair, so Azeroth's lair, the next that's in Azeroth's lair is pointing at Azeroth's castle, which is this. So Azeroth is the realm. I should actually put this here. The realm is Azeroth. I'm so neat. This is like aesthetically like causing me issues, but I'll let it go. Okay, so the realm is Azeroth. Azeroth has a lair pointer. The lair pointer points here at the dark portal. So if I access realm, then pointer, then I get this. So Azeroth arrow layer. So the arrow says I follow the layer pointer, and it gets me this. And then I say the next of this. So this has a next, and its next, I want to say, its next is equal to the pointer Azeroth Castle. So the pointer Azeroth Castle is aimed at this node, which means if I want to make this thing's next a copy of this pointer, it means it just needs to be aimed at the same thing that that thing's aimed at. So I take its next and say it's aimed there. Then I am going to name this one. So Azeroth's Castle name. Oh, I've made that same mistake with the layer up here. If you look at the, I think it's called Setup Realm, it'll do something very much like this. It'll have more functions in it, actually. I think it's doing other things as well, but I just want to lay everything out really exactly here. Okay, so the Azeroth Castle name is going to be, obviously, it's going to be Stormwind. It's probably Lordaeron. No, wait, what was the name of the castle there? It's now the Undercity. Anyway, don't worry. We're gonna go with Stormwind for the moment. Even though I know that the first Warcraft was a bit different. But okay, so these are the two strings. I need to copy this string into this location, so I'm going to use a string copy. By the way, if anyone is interested in the challenge exercises for this week, there's very, very specific Game of Thrones references in there. Potentially some spoilers. Um, I apologize. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. It's also, I didn't spoil anything from season 8, so anything I spoiled is like at least a year and a half old. So hopefully that's okay. Anyway, so I've just because I keep throwing references in for everything. Okay, so the castle's called Stormwind. So we've given this the name Stormwind. So we come across here and we go, okay, this thing's called Stormwind. The other thing that we're going to want to make sure is this next pointer should be pointing at null. Like, we can't have this next pointer just be floating somewhere. So, Azeroth Castle, next pointer is equal to null, which is this. It's so much worse than when I actually used the proper text thing for everything. Anyway, so that one's pointing at null. That one's not going anywhere. And it's signifying that this is the end of the list. We also have the castle pointer signifying this is the end of the list, which is nice. So we can actually alternate between them. So if I want to do looping through a list the way that I normally loop through a list, I can look for the null pointer to finish. If I want to be a little bit tricky, I can say, if I've hit the thing that equals the castle pointer, that's also the end of the list. Okay, so this now, Azeroth, is a realm with a pointer to the start and end of a linked list. So if I want to insert into the realm, let's make a function called insert location. What do I want it to return? I feel like I don't need this to return anything because I know it's not going to make any changes to Azeroth that will change this realm point. This realm will still be the same no matter what. Its lair and castle will always be aimed at the same location's lair and castle. But what I'm going to do is this insert location is always going to insert insert a location into a realm just before the castle. So it's always going to be just before the castle. In which case, I'm going to need to know the realm. So that is going to need a struct realm pointer. Not sure what to call this. It doesn't have enough of a purpose to need a full name. Oh, maybe I need a better thing than R, because R, once I'm deep in this function, I might get mixed around by it. Um, I want to call it realm, but I don't want to call it exactly the same thing as a struct. Okay. Ah, yes. Tom's saying like when we do this in the assignment, we have a type def for the capital R realm and the small r realm. I'm going to call this my realm for now. And then I'm going to have the thing that I'm going to insert into that realm. So what I might do for the insertion here, and this will be really, really similar to this insertion, the battle lecture insertion, is I will take an input name like this. So I'm going to call it location name and give it the max name length. Okay, so I know that I'm going to create a new location using this name. I'm going to insert into this realm, but I'm also saying that I'm inserting to this realm just before the castle. I'm going to grab this and define the full function down here. So, let's just take the comment as well. In case I write so much code that these are going to get separated and I can't read them both on the same screen. Okay, get some white space so we can see what we're doing. Okay, so the things I'm going to do, I'm going to do this slow and I'm going to do this complete so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. What I do sometimes, I won't always do this, but sometimes this is a really nice, easy way to do things, is I'll think through what I'm going to do before I do it. So thinking through what I'm going to do, the first thing I need to do is to find the actual space that I'm inserting into. So I'll go back to this one. In order to find the location just before the castle, so that I have the location before the castle and I have the castle, which means I've got the two nodes I'm inserting between, so that I know where I'm putting my new node. Um, I want to be able to loop through all of these to find the node just before the castle. So sometimes when I'm doing that, I'll go, okay, cool. Loop through the list of locations starting at my realm lair until you find the location just before the castle. This is a pretty heavy comment. This is too much of a comment for something that you'd actually put in your code. But sometimes when I'm doing this, what I do is I plan out my entire thought process for what I'm going to do. And then all I need to do is look at these comments and translate them into code. This is one way of separating the problem solving from the C syntax. And that's something that we try to do as much as we can, because when we're thinking about problem solving, we're thinking in this mind space. We're thinking visually. We're thinking about what we need to do to get things to happen. And then when we're in this mind space where we're just like purely text, like this is a wall of text. It's really hard to think abstract about this and what it's doing when you're looking at a wall of text. So what I do is I write down in a language I can understand better than code what I want to do, and then I replace that with code. So this is just like another one of those ways that you can go about solving problems. If you find that once you start writing code, you tend to lose track of the abstract problem you're trying to solve. Okay, so looping through this list of locations, we find the location just before the castle. Um, insert a node between the location and the castle, which means the first thing I need to do is create the new node using location name as its name. And then we were talking about, oh, it's not this one, it's this one, switching around these pointers. So we're going to set this new node's next to equal the location I found's next. So, oops, just drawing on the wrong thing. So new node's next is set to the location just before the castle's next. That changes one of my pointers, this one to this one. The next thing that I want to do is to make sure that to connect this up is to take the pointer from the location before the castle. It's no longer pointing at the castle, it should be pointing at my new node. So, before castle's next should now point at new node. At this point, I will stop and think, right? Hands off the keyboard, have a look through this list of things and think, is this everything that I needed to do? So I looked through and I found the place that I needed to insert things. And then, this is kind of like a heading for these, I create the new node. So I know I'm going to do one of these memory allocations so that the node exists beyond this function. And then I'm going to say the new node's next pointer points at the castle's next. And the cool thing is, like, as I'm reading this, I don't even have to remember exactly why I'm doing it because I've done my reasoning already. I looked at my diagram and I knew what things I needed to do. And then I'm going to take the location before the castles. I'm going to need a better name than this, by the way. This is too long for a variable name. I might even just use the word before, because before is a decent variable name that means everything that's here. Its next should now point at the new node. When I'm done, this new node will be connected, and the list will connect to it. And I don't think there's anything else that I need to do to make those changes. So what I can do now is I can start going through this and saying, okay, so what code does these things? Loop through the list of locations, starting at the realm lair until you find a location just before the castle. Okay, cool. So if I'm going to loop through, I have these pointers, these two pointers that I was using to move through. So this was the earlier one and the same one later, basically. So I'm going to want a pointer. It's a struct location pointer. I'm going to call it a search. And the search is going to start at the lair, and then it's going to move through the list. So my realm lair. So this says I have now a new pointer, search pointer, and it starts off pointing at the lair. And that's nice. The lair is the first element in the list, so this is a good place for us to look from. Okay. Then in order to do this search, I'm going to loop, right? So I don't know how many things are currently in the list. And so because I don't have a maximum number, I can't just say go this far and then stop at the castle. What I'm going to do instead is say, just keep going through the locations until you see the castle as the next thing. So, while I know that to move through this, I'm going to say that search equals search next. So I know that that's the way that I move through from location to location in a linked list. But what I also want to do is not just go from location to location. Um, I want to know that when I finish this, when I stop, search is going to be where I need it to be. So one stopping case is going to be. Oh, actually, no, there is only one stopping case. I don't need two different stopping cases because I know the castle's at the end of the list. So I can say search.next equals my realm castle. However, this won't let my while loop run. What I actually want my while loop to do is keep running. So this is the conditions that it will loop again and again and again. So if the next is not the castle, then loop. So what I'm saying is I'm here and I check my next. My next is this other location. So that means it wasn't the castle, so I move to this location. So I follow my next to this location, and then I check its next and say, is that the castle? It's not the castle, so I move to it. Again, I check that it's not the castle, so I move to it. This one I check its next, it is the castle, so I stop. and I don't loop any further here. And so this is where my pointer ends up. So my search pointer is going to stop here. So my search pointer is going to end there at the end of this while loop. So at the end of this, search pointer is pointing at location before castle, and then castle is its next, which means we have the two nodes that we're going to insert between. So the next thing I was going to do, actually, I don't even need this because this was like an abstract heading that I was using. So I'm going to create a new node using the name that I was given. To create a new node, I'm going to memory allocate a node. So I'm going to memory allocate the size of the struct location here. That's going to give me a pointer, so I need to take that pointer and use it. And that pointer goes into a struct location pointer that I'm going to use new node because that made sense to me. I didn't end up using before, I used search instead, but that's okay. So what we're doing here now is we have created a new location and we're holding on to the pointer for that new location. Then I'm just going to follow the instructions I laid out for myself, right? So I don't even have to think about what I'm doing here. This is the beautiful thing about this, is like just follow exactly what I said earlier that I was going to do. So new nodes next. So new nodes next becomes the location before castle's next. So the location before castle was called search next, which, if you've been following through what we're doing here, this should always be castle. I could nearly just put a little comment here. This is always my realm castle. If I wanted to, I could nearly just say that. I could nearly say its next is always my realm castle. Let's do that. Why not? So I'm saying that this node is always one before the castle. So I could say that. I mean, both of these ways that I could have done it are perfectly fine. Whether you want to say it's the next of the one I'm inserting before, and that would be a more generic insertion, or whether you want to say, because the rules for my insertion is it will always be the one before the castle, means its next is always the castle, right? So up to you. I'm going to leave it like this for now. And then I'm going to say the location before castle's next should now point at the new node. So the location before the castle is the one we found, the search location, and its next should now point at this new node. So if it's going to point at the new node, its next pointer is just equal to the new node. I actually don't need all of this white space and all of these comments actually. So what I'm going to do is just say this isn't just inserting a new node. This is, oh sorry, it isn't just creating, it's actually inserting. Insert new node into list just before castle. The one thing that we haven't done, we've linked it up, but we haven't given it its proper name. So it was given a name, so let's give it its proper name. So this one is called new node. Oh, so that was actually something I forgot when I was writing my comments there, and I was saying, okay, this is all the things I need to do. Oh no, I did have that in the comments, and I just overwrote it here. So I was supposed to give it its name when I made it. But that's okay. I can give it its name now. So its name is equal to the location name, which is whatever I was given as input to this function. Cool. So with this, I should have a function that can find the node before the castle Oh, it was this node before the castle, and insert this new node in between the two. Um, Let me just see if this actually worked. So let's check my style first. What did I call it? Insert location. No ZIDs in header. Otherwise, it thinks my indentation is fine. No other feedback than that. Okay, with no other feedback than that, I can quite happily say, well, I didn't put a header at all, which is pretty bad. Demo of insertion before the last element of a linked list when we have a struct pointing at the start and end of the list. Oops. 29th of the 7th, 2019. Okay, so let's style that again. See if it likes it. Looks good. Let's compile that. Oops, we've got issues. I have done a bunch of things that may not be correct. Implicitly declaring library function malloc with type blah 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 blah. Oh, I called malloc and I don't actually have the library where I get malloc from. So I was careful with the string library and I was like inserting it at the right time and I forgot to do it with the memory allocation library, which comes from the standard library. There. We also have an error. Array type character 33 is not assignable. Oh, haha. I was careful to string copy up here and then I just did an equals there instead. So let's convert this into a string copy. Destination is first, and the source is after. I don't need this line anymore because this string copy line has replaced it. Okay, let's see if that compiles. That should have solved that error. Okay, good. All right, we've hit 5, so let's take a 5-minute break, and after the 5-minute break, we'll try running this thing and see what it does, and see if it is indeed inserting things in the correct position or not. So we'll come back at about, it's 5:02 now, so we'll come back about 5:07, 5 minutes time, and then we'll use this and just do enough testing to see whether it's working or not, and then we'll move on to other stuff. And we are back. Okay, let's get back to where we were up to. Okay, so nice thing is everything compiled, which means I have no idea where the problems are yet. What I now need to do is, knowing that I've set up this, so let me just say, set up simple realm with with a lair and castle. Try inserting some locations. Okay, so I've got my insert location thing and I hope it works. I don't know if it works yet, so what I'm going to do is just do a simple test and see whether my first location went in correctly in the position between the two. In order to do that, maybe I want to loop through the list and print out whatever names I have there. I've actually got actually none of the code that I'm writing here is really any different from the code that I did in the lectures. I could have been copy pasting a bunch of this code. So what I might do, I had a function called print players, didn't I? Print players. Hey, if I was going to be really, really smart about this, I was going to be really smart about this. None of this stuff would have been players and stuff like that. It all would have been nodes in a linked list, and it all would have been in an H file and a C file. And then I could just include that same linked lists operation file that I created into both the Battle Royale and this insert location. That would have been super smart. Uh, However, I didn't. And I'm not going to do that now because like I've only got 50 minutes left, and there would definitely not be enough time to build an entire library for myself like that. But if you're thinking about the future, if you're thinking about where you're going to go with programming in the future, stuff like that will totally be possible. So it'll be the ability to I think I was saying this in lectures, like let's just build a toolbox. Instead of making things specifically for one purpose, we can make things that can be used for multiple purposes and go, all right, going to build a linked list library. And the linked list library is going to have the ability to insert before the end. It's going to have the ability to insert at specific locations. It's going to have the ability to search through a list and stuff like that. And I'm going to use that for um, this particular project that I'm working on, but I'm going to know that I built it in such a way I can use it in other things. We have limited you a bit in assignment 2. So we've said you can only submit certain files. So you don't get to build a whole library of your own in assignment 2. Having said that, I think if we asked you to build a library of your own in assignment 2, then I think there'd be a lot of just like exploding brains. And we don't really want to do that, right? But if you continue and you want to do more in computer science and stuff, you will get to do that. You'll definitely get to build your own libraries and use them. But for the moment, what I'm going to do is the dodgiest possible thing. I'm just going to copy this because I think it'll be roughly the same code. Ooh, why do I have a stir copy down there? Did I? I must have dragged that out by accident. I think that was meant to be there. Okay. Oh, in which case I've lost the thing that I copied from here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to dump it down there. I'm going to change this so that it fits with the names of structs and things that I'm doing here. Because I know that when I did this, it looped through and to print out the names of things, which means it's not going to be very much different. I'm going to make sure it fits with the style of what I'm doing. So I was using snake case here, whereas I used camel case the last time we did that. It is not a player. It is a struct location. Just so it's easier for me to understand. Location. This one I don't have to count the numbers, which means this is a void. And if it's a void, it doesn't need to return anything. And I don't need to count the numbers. So this actually just got a whole lot simpler. So I'm going to copy this location and say the thing's a location. So we get given a pointer to the start of the list, and then we go through the list using fputs to write the name of the location and then an end line. So this should just put, if I run it at the beginning, it should have lair, then castle. If I run it after I insert something, it should have lair, then the thing, then castle. And every time I insert, the thing should appear at the bottom just before castle. This print locations should allow us to test that. In order to use it, I'm going to put its declaration up here at the top, so it's before the main. The nice thing about only putting single line declarations here is the main still is pretty much the first function that exists in the file. So we can always just scroll down to the first function and go, okay, this is the thing that actually does stuff. And these are the things that help it do things. So it's nice. That ordering allows us to always see the thing that we need first. And then we go into the details only if we really want to know later. Okay, so what we might do, because we're testing at the moment, wait. One thing about this. We're printing locations in a realm. We probably want to take the realm, not the location. So I'm taking a realm, and then I'm saying the location I want to loop from is a location pointer. Oh, I'm going to call it the same thing. Location is going to start at the realm's lair. We start at the lair, and then we just loop through until we reach the last location, which is going to be the castle. It's always going to be the castle, but since we also don't necessarily know that for sure, because we don't know if we're inserting correctly. But either way, this is going to go through the whole list, assuming that the layer is the start. Um, in which case, my declaration up above needs to be fixed. Yes. Okay, so we take the realm and we print out all the locations in the realm. So let's just make sure that our creation is working by saying print locations, and our realm is called Azeroth. And then we'll try inserting a location. So the first location we insert is going to be the closest one to the dark portal, and then the next one is going to be further away and further away until we reach, say, Stormwind. But what we'll do first is just insert one location to see if that's working. Okay, insert location. It wants the realm that we're inserting it into, so that's Azeroth. So note that this was going to take a realm pointer as input. Azeroth has been declared as a realm pointer. So when I put it in there, I don't give it a star, I don't give it an and or anything like that. If it is the same type as the input, so the type is here, struct realm pointer is the type. Azeroth is a struct realm pointer, which means I shouldn't do anything else to the input. I just give it the name of the variable because it's already the right type. If I was looking for an actual struct realm, not a pointer, then yes, I could say follow that pointer to the location, um, and give it the actual struct. But because my input says no, just give me the pointer to it and it's fine, I give the pointer, and so no qualifications, no extra characters. I'm going to insert a location into Azeroth that is going to be the first location near the Dark Portal. So, obviously, everyone knows that's the Swamp of Sorrows. I mean, I don't know how you could not know that, because maybe because you haven't been playing World of Warcraft nearly constantly for, I think, 12 years. I don't know. Not that anyone I know would ever have done that. That would be a huge commitment of time that you'd maybe have to think about carefully about your life decisions if you were, say, one of those hypothetical people. I wouldn't know who that would be. Then, so, okay, so we've inserted this location, which should now be the Dark Portal, then the Swamp of Sorrows, then Stormwind. But let's print locations to see whether that's working. All right, this is enough now for us to run. So what we should be getting is the Dark Portal, then Stormwind, and then again when we print, we should be getting the Dark Portal, then the Swamp of Sorrows, then Stormwind. What I might do also is just put a line between them so we can see both tests are different, especially if you start testing lots. Like you start going this test and this test and this test and this test, which is what you're going to do in the test realm.c, is this stuff is not going to be here. It's going to be there. And then you can say, um, you can just see whether a test is finished or not. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go one step beyond. So I'm going to show you what I would do in a testing file. I'm not going to do it in a testing file. I'm just doing it in this main. But I'll show you the way that I would do something like this in testing. Because the trick in testing is, well, we're trying to save time. Testing's there to tell us exactly if something's gone right or wrong really quickly. So if I want to make something really easy for myself, in this case, I'm going to say testing creation of realm. So that way, I know that when I'm reading my testing output, I know which bit that I'm testing. So I have the print locations and then the dot dot dot, and then I'm going to do this. Printf expected output is the dark portal, and then on the next line, Stormwind. And I'm going to grab this thing again. Right, so hopefully what I'm going to get is testing creation of realm, the printout of the realm, and then it's going to tell me what the expected output is, which I have seen because I structured this test so that it should show that. And then if I can read that, it's really easy because I read, okay, this test, those sets of lines are exactly the same. I can just move on. I don't have to think about it. This is if I'm visually testing it. If I wanted to be really, really careful with it, what I could do is, instead of printing out those locations, I could put those locations into strings. I could compare those strings against the strings I expect, which is the Dark Portal and Stormwind, and I say, just these things should be equal. I can even assert that those things are equal, so I don't even have to look at the test. All I have to do is say, did the test fail or succeed? If it failed, I know one of my asserts failed. I need to do something about it. Okay, but at this point, this will be a good enough test. So this will actually show us whether that's working or not. And I might do the same thing here. This one is testing insertion before castle. So the whole thing was we're going to insert just before the castle, and then we're going to print the locations. I'm going to copy this because it's going to actually be reasonably similar. So I have the print locations, I have the gap, and then I can see the expected output. The expected output I'm expecting is going to be the Dark Portal, Swamp of Sorrows, Stormwind. So now when I run this, I don't even have to think about it and interpret it. It should just come out correctly. I should just be able to read it and it comes out correctly. So this is where I was like, I've written all that stuff and then it doesn't compile. That'll be pretty funny. It didn't. Okay, what have I done? Calling a function named print online. Oh, did I say print instead of printf? I did. And I did it twice. Okay, okay. Um, the nice thing at least is my compiler has said, you said print. Did you mean printf? That's very, very polite of it to say, like, I think you're close. This is what it is. Okay, saved again. Let's compile again now that I fixed that error. Okay, it compiled, so now we're ready for our testing. We will run the name of the program, insert location, see what it does. Testing creation of realm. Dark Portal, Stormwind. Expected output, Dark Portal, Stormwind. Sweet. This little thing here, I can look at that and go, I'm pretty sure my creation of the realm is working correctly. Then, testing insertion before castle, Dark Portal, Swamp of Sorrows, Stormwind. Expected output, Dark Portal, Swamp of Sorrows, Stormwind. Sweet. Okay, that's good. That means we're now at a point where a basic insertion between two nodes worked. That's not a guarantee that this is working, because there's many, many mistakes I could have made in that insertion, which would have still put it in between those two. Because when you've only got two nodes and you're inserting, then you just actually just put them in between the two. We haven't actually tested whether that loop is going through many locations and then always inserting at the end. So let's try inserting many locations. And so this is going to be a test for me and my memory of whatchamacallit of World of Warcraft geography to remember what's next. So we've inserted the Swamp of Sorrows. Let's insert another location. I think we'd come down through the wetlands. I don't think we're even coming. Oh, we're coming from the Dark Portal. Yeah, okay. It was the wetlands, and then we're going to insert a location. Um, After the wetlands, we've got Red Ridge Mountains. This is going to be real. Actually, the funniest thing is if someone watches this and comes back and go, Mark, you got your WoW geography wrong. It's not actually Red Ridge Mountains next. There's somewhere in between. I think the Blasted Lands is meant to be in this. Oh no, that's south, or maybe north. I forget. I'm going to go with whatever I want to because we're actually testing programming, not Mark's prior knowledge of World of Warcraft. Okay, Red Ridge Mountains. Sorry? No, no. Oh yeah, this is all in the exam. I love it because there's not actually that many people in the stream right now. I'm gonna say that's a good thing because people have already done this code and they're happy with it. But yes, Batman, the Ninja Turtles, Game of Thrones, World of Warcraft, they will all be in the exam. They're not going to be in the exam. Oh, actually, I don't know that they're not going to be in the exam because we haven't written all the questions yet. So you might see your favorite characters come back in the exam. Anyway, let's insert location. And this is going to be Goldshire because we're right there. We're right near Stormwind. Okay. Having done all of this, I know that there's a specific order that these should come out. So let's say we're testing insertion of several locations. I'm going to copy that because it's going to be reasonably similar. We're going to print them out, and then we're going to say expected output was the Dark Portal, Swamp of Sorrows, Wetlands, Red Ridge, Mountains. I have a very, very long line here. Goldshire, Stormwind. I could split this up, actually, because printf is one of the easiest things to split up. Because printf is just going to do a sequence of things, and so I can actually just split this into multiple lines. Okay, so let's run this again, and it will do my auto testing for me. So this is like, we write auto tests for you that do this stuff to your code in labs and stuff like that. This is how you can write your own. So now if I just keep running this, it's always going to do these 3 tests for me. So I can go and add stuff. I can change the way insert location works, and I'll see whether this works or not. Okay, let's compile that again. Run it. And we have the... Wait, it's up here. Yep. Testing creation of realm, Dark Portal Stormwind. Expected output, Dark Portal Stormwind. Okay, that's correct. Insertion before castle. Those 3 lines are the same. Insertion of several locations. Dark Portal, Swamp of Sorrows, Wetlands, Red Ridge Mountains, Goldshire, Stormwind. And that is the same order there, which means I'm pretty sure that my insertion before castle is now working because it's worked with a single insertion and it's worked with multiple insertions. If I wanted to, I could start trying to do things like removing some of them and then inserting again and stuff and testing. But I think that we don't necessarily need to do that, especially because we don't need to do that for the assignment. If you start working with the enemies and stuff, you need to do other tests like that, where the enemies are going to disappear and things. But that's further on. I'm not going to show you code for that because like I'm not gonna give away the high end marks in the higher end marks in the assignment and stuff. But like this code I've given you here is not functionally any harder or even that much different from what I showed you in the lectures already. I'm just shifting around the context a bit so that you can see it in different ways. Okay, so what we've got, in fact, oh yeah, let me go over it, and then after I'll see if there's any questions. So what we've got here is we've got the location and realm structs. These are similar. They're not exactly the same as what you get in the assignment. Also in the assignment, you're going to change these. They're not going to be this basic, but they're like this. And we've got an idea that we can set up a realm. You don't have to do this. We've already done it for you, but at least now you've seen it happen from scratch. And we've got the idea of insertion. And I think the important thing of what I showed you there was not necessarily just like, here's the code, you can copy it down. What I wanted to show you there, which I think was important, was draw a picture, draw a couple of pictures, understand what you want to do. Once you've understood what you want to do, you can change it into words so you know your step-by-step order is going to be a particular thing. So that all those comments I had in there before, I probably don't even need this massive comment here either. Um, I think the only bit of this I really need is that, you know, because I don't want the comments to like overthrow the code to the point where you can't really read it. But this is all you need to know, is that this thing is going to find the location. But before, when I had all those comments, that was me just going thinking out loud for what I wanted to do. I think out loud on what I want to do. It means translating what I want to do into code is really easy because I've already notated it. I've already understood what it was going to be. So I've got this function, and then I made a print location function just to do my testing with. Then the automated testing that we can set up for ourselves like this is really nice. So these blocks here, and if I wanted to, actually, probably better would be to throw these into their own functions, so that we don't have this massive wall of text. Here, it'll just have one which says, for example, test realm creation. I don't know what the inputs would be. It would probably be Azeroth. I mean, I'm not actually going to make this one now. I'm just showing you what it could be. It'll be this, and then all of this wouldn't be here. And then we'd have another one, which is test insert location, test insert many, and stuff like that. And so you just have these single line um, functions here instead of having to read through it all. And then that makes your file easy to read, as well as makes this automated testing happen for you. So that's the kind of thing that in your assignment you do in another file, you'd be doing in your test realm file. So that's what we've got today. And this, I mean, like the print locations is more complicated in your assignment, but what I just did there, and I actually like an hour and a half worth of work while I stopped to explain it all and stuff. I'm pretty sure that's a pass mark in the assignment. Let's actually have a quick look. Stage one, adding to the realm. We've just done adding to the realm, printing out the realm. We've just done that. Printing out the realm is more complicated, so you have to spend another half an hour on that to just make sure this is working correctly. Stage one complete. Let's just have a look. Completely working implementation of stage one with an attempt at readable code and some tests. 1.5 hours, just past the assignment. And then it's up to you to decide if you want to go further, you want to go for a credit and stuff like that. I'll be very disappointed now if anyone fails the assignment, because it means that they're not looking for help if they need it. But look, but no, that's not true. If you are having trouble, if you're having trouble understanding this and stuff like that, please reach out to us. I've gotten some emails. I apologize, my email backlog is backing up at the moment. I'm answering emails that are like over a week old, and I apologize for that. But help sessions are available as well as Piazza is good as well. Sorry, Tom. Yeah, email your tutor because your tutors, like when you think about it, I've got 500 students. Each of your tutor has 25 or 50 students, depending on how many tutors they have, which means that they're much more likely to have less emails coming in and they can answer them for you. They can even look at your code, whereas like for me, it's going to take me a lot longer to go through multiple people's code and stuff, whereas your tutor's actually there to help you. And you can even just go to your tute this week and or your lab this week with your assignment code and go, this is where I've gotten up to and I've got problems. And your tutor will be able to say, um, I think maybe this might be where your problem is, or why don't you think about this or something. They won't write your code for you, right? It's not their job. But what they'll be able to do is they'll be able to say to you, this is where I think you should focus. And then, so you pay attention to what they say and you go, okay, if they think I should focus on this, these are the things I need to look at in my code, or these are the things I need to go back and look in the lectures and say, okay, let's rewatch some of the lecture recordings to see what Mark did in this situation and see whether that's different from what I'm doing. Because if it's different, that might mean that I need to do something else with it. But anyway, that's this. Um, I haven't been doing very much housekeeping on the stream stuff, so I'll go through the stream stuff and I'll show and I'll put like the time steps in for the previous two videos, which I haven't yet. Um, and um, and I'll chuck this code up because I think people are going to want to use this code. I think it's fairly useful. It's nearly a passing mark in the assignment. It's not. You're still going to have to modify this code to work in the assignment, which I'm never going to give you exactly. I'm not going to give you exactly the code, but it means you'll get pretty close. You can do something with this that might get you closer to a pass mark. I would much prefer you copied from me than you copied from someone else, because copying from someone else is like you might not do the work that you needed to do to get things done. Whereas you copy from me, I'm actually making sure that I push you to a certain point and get you to actually think about it a little bit further. Um, so we've got just under half an hour left, and I think that will depend on if anyone has any questions. So feel free to write any questions in chat now if you want me to go over anything else in the assignment, if you want me to talk about anything to do with linked lists, or you want um, pointers on pointers, memory allocation, anything like that. A lot of the things that have been questions like that have come up in Piazza and stuff like that, I've pushed them into things like your tutes and your labs. So this week I tried to make sure the tutes and labs had a little bit of a recap on memory allocation because I know that's something that people didn't necessarily get a huge amount of practice on. But any questions you might have, I'm more than happy to answer those questions now. So if anyone's got anything, otherwise I'm happy to wrap it up because I'm actually pretty happy. Like I, I've completed what I wanted to show you today, which was like some of the basics of how we can do some of the things that you need to be able to do with linked lists. So I'll just leave it up there for a second because we do have a few people watching at the moment. So if anyone's got any burning questions that they would like to get an answer on, feel free. Uh, I'll be up for another 30 seconds or so before I wrap it up in case there are any questions. Most important question, obviously, is Horde or Alliance. Um, no one's asked that. I'm not sure why. Um, but yes, both. Well, I spent the majority of my time um, in WoW first as Horde, and then I went over to Alliance later on, and then helped run a few guilds in both. All right, I'm going to take that as looking like there's no questions for the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that in the best possible light that people are already asking their questions on Piazza and getting answers either from other students or from the tutors, or people are going to help sessions and getting help there, which is really good too. So I think we'll wrap up the stream a little early today, and I look forward to seeing what people do with their assignments in the next couple of weeks. See everyone in the lecture tomorrow. Bye bye.